Join me, please, in Leviticus chapter 26. We'll begin at verse 30 this morning. As we finish off this chapter in the book of Leviticus, we were looking at, first of all, the precious promises that the Lord had given to the people, but they were conditional promises. And it was conditioned on them obeying the commandments that had been given to them. And there were great things that would happen. The one is that they would constantly work throughout the whole year. I mean, everything would just fall right in place as they went. And there would be protection from those around them. But then we came to the portion that concerned the curses that were placed upon them if they did not obey. And we were looking at that, and we looked at a particular one in 2 Kings where those curses had come upon them, that there wasn't enough to eat. They were eating their children. And so we're down to this section here, which continues those particular curses. And we read, "And I will destroy your high places, and cut down your images, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you. And I will make your cities waste, and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. And I will not smell the savor of your sweet odors. And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste." I think we've covered some of that. The pastor has, especially with the return of the people from the Babylonian captivity. Their cities were waste. They had to rebuild everything that was there. "And then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths." There's that Sabbath stuff again. How important is it? I don't know. Must be pretty important. The Lord keeps telling us concerning the Sabbath here. "As long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land, even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when ye dwelt upon it. And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the lands of their enemies. And the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none perish." Taken to that place where it says, how could we sing? We hung our harps up on the trees because we couldn't sing concerning the goodness of the Lord. "And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send faintness." Excuse me, I already read that one. "And they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword, when none pursueth. And ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. And ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemies' lands, and also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. If then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity. One of the things concerning about the Lord is he's pretty stubborn. He will continue his fight with the disobedient all the way until he wins. And that's what we see. Even though all these disasters will come about, the Lord's covenant cannot be forfeited. What he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob must be upheld because they were unconditional promises and must continue as long as the eternal God exists. And so we read in the final verses, "Then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember. And I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them, and they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, because they despised my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am the Lord their God. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their God. I am the Lord. And these are the statutes and judgments and laws which the Lord made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses." This is the end of a situation. As we continue into the last chapter, we'll see something a little different being given to us. But the Lord is faithful, always faithful. He will not forget his promises. In this next section in chapter 27, the Lord provides directions concerning the handling of vows made by individuals. The first thing that we need to know is exactly what a vow was. Vows were not commanded to be made by the Lord as part of the law. They are completely voluntary on the part of the individual who makes the vow. They normally were made to express an individual's love and his dedication to the Lord. Vows were a promise made by the individual to provide someone or something to the Lord for his use. As we will see, they could consist of persons, we'll see that in verses 2 through 8, of cattle in verses 9 to 13, houses in verses 14 and 15, and land in verses 16 to 25, all of which might be redeemed with the exception of sacrificial animals, but not the firstborn. And we'll see that in verse 26. Nor persons or things that were dedicated to the Lord by the band. And that's found in verses 28 and 29. And you also could not redeem the tithes in verses 30 to 33. Because all of those things were to be handed over to the Lord according to the law. And a vow was not part of the law, and therefore they could not be redeemed. Vows were normally made for a specific time period, but they might be made for an entire lifetime. It was not a sin to not ever make a vow, but it was a sin to make a vow and not to complete it perfectly. Jesus had much to say about vows, especially those concerning how vows could be twisted from their original purpose by the scribes and the Pharisees to avoid following the important parts of the law. He says in Matthew chapter 15, starting at verse 1, "Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. The law. But ye say, Whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, It is a gift, or a vow, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition with your vow taking. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah say of you, saying, This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, making vows, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." So you see, they had taken this section way out of context, and they had substituted it for the important things of the law. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When a man shall make a singular vow, the persons shall be for the Lord by thy estimation. An individual could make a vow for himself, thus setting himself apart for special service to the Lord. There was usually a time period as part of the vow. The Nazirite vow was one type of this vow. This practice had been carried over into the church, and therefore Paul had to give this warning to married couples in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 5 and 6. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your inconsistency. But I speak this by permission, and not of commandment. A husband or a wife could not take a vow of celibacy for permanently, or making it permanent. It could only be for a specified time, and that time had to be agreed upon by both the husband and the wife. And again, notice, it's not a commandment that a vow needed to be made. One needs to take care when making a vow so that in fulfilling the vow, his actions do not cause injury to others. A parent could make a vow concerning their children, such as was the case of Hannah's dedication of Samuel. We read in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 27 and 28. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition, which I ask of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. So when she made this vow, Samuel was dedicated to the Lord's service. And he took that vow upon himself and lived it his entire life. When a vow was made concerning a person, there was a monetary value set at the time a vow was made, so that a redemption fee could be made for that person. This would then follow the same process for the redemption of an Israelite slave or his property. The more time left in the vow, the higher the redemption price. Next, we are given the exact amounts of the valuations for particular individuals. These values were based on the abilities of the individual for service and should not be seen as demeaning to women or children, as some have tried to make it. And thy estimation, in verse 3, shall be of the male from 20 years old, even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver, after the shekel of the sanctuary. And if it be a female, then thy estimation shall be 30 shekels. And if it be from 5 years old, even unto 20 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. And it shall be from a month old, even unto 5 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 5 shekels of silver, and for the female thy estimation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if it be from 60 years old and above, if it be a male, then thy estimation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. This past week, the shekel of silver was about $28. So the value placed on each person was as follows. It was $1,400 for a man. There was $840 for a woman. $560 for a male youth. And $280 for a female youth. $140 for a male young child. $84 for a female young child. And just for us. For an old man, $420. And for the old woman, $280. So you know how much you're worth. Okay, not much in today's society, is it? But if he be poor, then thy estimation, and then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall value him. According to his ability that vowed shall the priest value him. As we've seen in the case of certain sacrifices, a person could be so poor that after he had made the vow, that he was not ever able to redeem himself from the vow. In that case, the priest would investigate the person's ability to pay, and then he could revalue him so that he could pay the redemption price. This could also be based on a person's ability. A person who is lame, of course, the value of that person really should be less because they were unable to do the things that the normal person could do. But that was for people. There was a particular value set upon them, or a specified value. Then in verse 9, and if it be a beast, whereof men bring an offering unto the Lord, all that any man giveth of such unto the Lord shall be holy. He shall not alter it, nor change it, a good for a bad, or a bad for a good. And if he shall at all change beast for beast, then it and the exchange thereof shall be holy. So in case of making a vow of an animal, there were no restrictions concerning the condition of the animal. It could have blemishes. What could not be done was once the vow was made, the individual could not switch that animal that was originally vowed. And if he tried to do this, then he lost out because both animals were given to the Lord. These in particular were animals that could be used in offerings. But they, however, in this case, it could have been a blemished one, a bad one. And if it be any unclean beast, of which they do not offer a sacrifice unto the Lord, then he shall present the beast before the priest. So even animals that couldn't be sacrificed, okay, those are oxen, sheep, and goats, could be given to the Lord's service. For example, a donkey could be given, and that donkey then would be used to pull carts to service the tabernacle, like hauling wood in for the altar. And the priest shall value it, whether it be good or bad, as thou valuest, thou who art the priest, so shall it be. So even the unclean animal had a value that was placed on it. But it was done by the priest, and these would vary based on the ability of the animal. But if he will at all redeem it, then he shall add a fifth part thereof unto thy estimation. Since the unclean animal's valuation would be lower than the clean animal, a person still might want to redeem it. But in order to redeem it, there was a 20% surcharge added to the valuation of it. And when a man shall sanctify his house to be holy unto the Lord, then the priest shall estimate it, whether it be good or bad. As the priest shall estimate it, so shall it stand. And if he that sanctified it will redeem his house, then he shall add the fifth part of the money of thy estimation unto it, and it shall be his. The house in this case was most likely a second home, located close to where the tabernacle was located, and then later in Jerusalem near the temple. Because as the number of priests would increase, they would need to travel from their homes in different parts of the country in order to do their service. This was, you could have seen this with Zechariah, John's father. He lived in the hill country, and yet during his particular month of service, he had to move into Jerusalem in order to take care of the business that he was about. So this house, like the unclean animal, could be redeemed by the owner with with a 20% surcharge again. And if a man sanctify unto the Lord some part of a field of his possession, then thy estimation shall be according to the seed thereof. An homer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver. Well, a person might dedicate a portion of his inherited property. You need to understand that. That's what we're talking about here. He might, for the Lord's use. And thereby all the produce of that portion of land would go to support the Lord's work. The valuation was based on the amount of barley seed it would take to sow the field, and that was measured in homers, or omers, about 225 pounds of seed in an omer. The larger the field, of course, the higher the valuation would be, because more seed would be required to sow that particular field. If he sanctify his field from the year of Jubilee, according to thy estimation, it shall stand. But if he sanctify his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon unto him the money according to the years that remain, even unto the year of the Jubilee, and it shall be abated from thy estimation. And if he that sanctified the field will in any wise redeem it, then he shall add the 5th part of the money of thy estimation unto it, and it shall be assured to him. So the valuation of this field always took into account the number of possible years that it could be vowed. And so it was based on the year of the Jubilee. And if he will not redeem the field, or if he have sold the field to another man, it shall not be redeemed any more. But the field, when it goeth out in the Jubilee, shall be holy unto the Lord, as a field devoted. The possession thereof shall be the priest. Well, in the case that the owner didn't want to redeem that field, didn't need it anymore, and he had to do it before the Jubilee year. Or in another case, he violated his vow for that piece of land by selling it to somebody else. And in the year of Jubilee, that other person had to return the field, of course, but it would not go back to the owner. He had violated his vow. And therefore, once he did that, the property became solely the Lord's, and it was given to the priest to work the land. And if a man sanctify unto the Lord a field which he hath bought, which is not of the fields of his possession. Notice we've switched what kind of a field it is. This one is one that he bought from somebody else. Then the priest shall reckon unto him the worth of thy estimation, even unto the year of the Jubilee. And he shall give thine estimation in that day as a holy thing unto the Lord. In the year of the Jubilee, the field shall return unto him of whom it was bought, even to him to whom the possession of the land did belong. In the case where the person dedicates a portion of land that he had bought from another, we learn the lesson here that we cannot give the Lord what he has not given to us. Since when the Jubilee year came around, the land that was dedicated to the Lord's use had to follow the law, and it had to return to the original owner. God's law always trumps a personal vow. Always keep that in mind. You can't change the rules that God sets up. And all thy estimations shall be according to the shekel of the sanctuary. 20 gerahs shall be the shekel. Israel had a set monetary standard. The tabernacle shekel, money was measured by weight at this time and not in coinage like we have today. A shekel was a very small amount. It would take almost 40 shekels to make 1 pound. Each shekel could be split up into 20 gerahs. The true value for any given weight, depending on the item being weighed in shekels, as we saw in the valuation of a person above. A shekel of gold, of course, would be of more value than a shekel of silver. And of course, a shekel of iron or brass, everything was measured according to this weight. Only the firstling of the beast, which should be the Lord's firstling, no man shall sanctify it, whether it be ox or sheep, it is the Lord's. The firstborn of sacrificial animals could not be used in a vow, because by law, they already belonged to the Lord and had to be given to him. And if it be of an unclean beast, then he shall redeem it according to thy estimation, and shall add a 5th part of it thereto. Or if it be not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to thy estimation. So the firstborn of unclean animals could be redeemed by the original owner, but with a 20% surcharge. And if the owner did not want to redeem that animal, the priest could sell the animal, but he could only sell it for his original estimation. The new buyer didn't have to pay the 20% surcharge to it. Notwithstanding, no devoted thing that a man shall devote unto the Lord of all that he hath, both of man and beast, and of field of his possession, shall be sold or redeemed. Every devoted thing is most holy unto the Lord. None devoted, which shall be devoted of men, shall be redeemed, but shall surely be put to death. These 2 verses deal with something completely different from the vows that we looked at in the previous verses. To help you understand what's taking place here, think about when the people took the city of Jericho. All the spoil that was captured by the Israelites was to belong to the Lord. None of it was to be taken and used by anyone. This was known as the ban, because Achan took what belonged to the Lord. There was a penalty of death that was meted out because of it. In addition to this type of thing, a person could make an irrevocable vow. Any person or thing vowed had to belong solely to the person and not restricted by any of the law. Only foreign slaves could be vowed, because Israelite slaves would always be freed in the Jubilee or redeemed by someone else. Any land that was vowed could not have any rightful heir that was able to receive it. So a man could not vow his land if he had a son, because that was to travel, pass on to the son and into the next generation. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. The tithe, or the tenth, belonged to the Lord and needed to be separated and given to him. This in particular dealt with foodstuffs being harvested. Each type of product was no doubt handled differently. For example, after the barley was threshed, every 10th bag would be set aside. After the olives were pressed, every 10th jar of oil would be set aside. Every 10th pomegranate would be set aside in a basket, and so on. If a man, make sure I go to the right place here. If a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the 5th part thereof. And why exactly anyone would want to redeem any of this produce is a debatable question for me, since he would still have to give the tithe, plus he would have to add 20% more to it. So this appears to be more of an hindrance to somebody doing a redemption of the tithe. And concerning the tithe of the herd, or of the flock, even whatsoever passeth under the rod, the 10th shall be holy unto the Lord. He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. If he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. This section deals with the tithe of sacrificial animals, and it gives direction as to how the particular animals were to be selected. When it came time to bring the tithe of the increase of the flocks and herds, all the newborn animals were gathered together in a pen. As they entered or exited, one at a time, every 10th animal was set aside as the tithe. It did not matter if the animal had a blemish or not. This made it the Lord's choice of the animal. What the individual needed to do was to make sure that he did not arrange things so that only the blemished animals were always the 10th one in line. I could see that happening, can't you? You know, if it's going to go, if I'm not going to have it, I'm going to make sure that at least I have the good ones. Once the selection process was complete, he could not switch out any of the animals. Even if he wanted to switch a good one for a bad one, not allowed to do that. The Lord had already made his choice in the selection. And so it's just like in the ban. None of the animals could be redeemed. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai. And so this ends all the commandments that were given by the Lord through Moses as the people were camped around Mount Sinai. That's it. Further on, we will see not necessarily new commandments being given. We will see explanations of them and expansions of them depending on different situations. But up to this point, these are all the commandments that the Lord gave them. And just like in the last chapter, What was their responsibility? If you will keep the commandments, the Lord promises good things. And if you will not keep the commandments, the Lord's going to promise you bad things. I was thinking concerning us. The verse came to me. I don't remember how it came to me. I think reading someplace here. I've called you friends, and you're my friends. But it's a conditional promise. Because he said, if you keep my commandments. So that draws me back to chapter 26. The Lord promised that to the Israelites. While we don't see any particular bad things promised to us in the New Testament, if that's a conditional promise, then I think it's important that maybe we need to make sure in our lives we keep the Lord's commandments. Our gracious Father, you have given to us so great a salvation through your Son, Jesus Christ. We love him because you have first loved us. May our love continue for him. And may we constantly be his friends, not turning aside to anything else, not for our own pleasure, not for our own gain. May we be solely his, a people that you have chosen. And may we constantly glorify you in everything we say and everything that we do. We ask for this. We need this, dear Lord. So we pray in our Lord's name.